For the past 1 year, posters of G20 Summit have cropped up in every nook and corner of the country, displaying the official logo, which included our national flower lotus embedded with Mother Earth, and all are shining bright in the colors of tricolor. The message of One Earth, One Family, One Future, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, was also being depicted everywhere. This summit has been extraordinary. There were 200 pre-summit meetings held in more than 60 cities across the country. And finally, the main Leaders Summit was held on 9th and 10th of September in New Delhi. And for the Leaders Summit, we have welcomed President Biden, we have welcomed Prime Minister Kishinda, we welcomed President Macron from France, we welcomed Prime Minister Rishi Sunak from UK, we welcomed Prime Minister Meloni from Italy, we welcomed Prime Minister Jagannath from Mauritius, we welcomed Sheikh Hasina from Bangladesh, and there were also the heads or the leaders from United Nations. Secretary General was here. Then we also had the head of World Bank. We also had IMF chief here, so on and so forth. Our G20 presidency came at a very crucial time when the world is getting divided between democracies and autocracies. The growing inequality, high food and fuel prices, especially after the Russia-Ukraine crisis, the asserting Global South as a major stakeholder in international order, making the West realize that they alone cannot solve the problems of today. Then there are issues of climate change, there are issues of terrorism, there are issues of recovery of economies post-COVID, so on and so forth. It is said that in diplomacy, timing matters, and the present times have offered India to act as a bridge between Global South and Global North, to act as a bridge between the West and Russia-China combination. We are winning lots of praises from across the world for successfully holding this presidency. It has boosted our image. So before we discuss the outcomes of the summit, quickly understand what is G20. G20 is a group of 20 which includes 19 countries plus European Union. It was formed in 1999 after the Asian financial crisis, and the group meets every year to discuss economic and political issues. It accounts for 85% of the world economic output, more than 75% of the world trade, and 2/3 of global population. Now coming back to the Delhi summit, let us see what are the highlights or what are the major achievements or outcomes of this summit. So one of the most important outcome has been a joint declaration, because no ministerials this year, whether it was a ministerial of foreign ministers or whether it was a ministerial of commerce minister, whether it was ministerials of trade, we have not been able to come up with a joint statement. So again, there was a fear of deadlock. Why? The reason was the West wanted a tough language against Russia, but Russia and China opposed it. And finally, a 34-page declaration came up mentioning issues like war in Ukraine, climate change, cryptocurrencies, sustainable development, tackling terrorism, climate finance, etc. The main challenge was strong wording against Russia. But how the miracle happened? Here comes the deft diplomacy played by India. India has good relationship both with Russia and the West. It followed its policy of Madhyam Marg, the middle path. And finally, the declaration used language which satisfied both the parties. The declaration refrained from blaming Russia for the war, but it did mention about the human sufferings and adverse repercussions that the conflict has brought on global level, especially food and energy security issues. Now the obvious question is, why has West agreed for such a simple language, and why West has not been very prominent for going for a strong language against Russia? See, there is no secret that West sees India as a counterweight to China. The West, especially the US, is very conscious of expanding Chinese influence in the international order. As recently we have seen, there has been expansion of BRICS and all the 6 new members, right from Egypt to Ethiopia to Iran, UAE, Argentina and Saudi Arabia, all are very close to China. Even we are seeing the growing influence of China through BRI, through dominating or having its more influence in UN bodies. It has come up with AIIB, New Development Bank, etc. Hence, the West wanted India to have a diplomatic win and they supported the statement. Second, and another very important outcome has been the inclusion of 55-membered African Union in the G20. It has become 21st member. Thus, India has played a pivotal role to amplify the voice of Global South, and it is in sync with our spirit of Sabka Saath. Now the question is, why India has pushed for its membership? India has always been vocal about democratization of international relations. And if we see the international organizations today, either they are dominated by West or the new bodies that are coming up are having more influence of China. So we need a balance in the global organizations at the present time. And when you look at Africa, Africa is comprising 17% of world population. When we see the representation in G20, it is only one country, that is South Africa. And when you compare it with Europe, Europe has a population of say 7 to 8% of the world. But 5 European countries plus European Union plus Spain as permanent guest. All this clearly show that more European or Western influence in G20. So definitely inclusion of African Union will up to some extent balance the G20, and also it will help India win more allies for future G20 summits. Third initiative, another very important initiative is a new network of railways, ports, electricity, data network, hydrogen pipelines, etc. The name is India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. This is basically to counter Chinese BRI, because Chinese BRI has brought many countries under debt trap. And also this is going to boost the Abrahamic cooperation in West Asia, which means cooperation between Arab nations and Israel. On climate agenda, G20 for the first time has recognized, or it has backed a target for tripling global renewable energy capacity. And it has referenced the need for emissions to be peaked before 2025. It also acknowledged the limiting warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade before 2019 levels. But it failed to agree on the phasing out of fossil fuels. Then there has been another major announcement or achievement with respect to climate, that is, we have launched Global Biofuel Alliance to expedite the global uptake of biofuels. And then there have been commitments to address the debt challenges of developing countries, because many of them are under the debt trap of China. So commitment to address the debt trap of developing countries, and here there has been a big role given to multilateral developmental banks. It also talked about reviving multilateralism and making international relations more democratic. So these are the major outcomes of the summit. India has passed on the gavel to Brazil, whose presidency will start from November this year. But before that, India has planned a virtual review meeting in November. So overall, if we analyze the whole extravaganza of G20 throughout the year, no doubt it has been a great success. We have safely maneuvered in the turbulent geopolitical waters. It has shown the strength of Indian diplomacy to the world, and also the message is large and clear. Yes, we are ready for holding such big global events in India. India has not only played its innings well, but has also infused new energy and interest in G20, which was otherwise seen as an extension of G7 or the platform of Western democracies. And of course, the masterstroke is inclusion of African Union, and hence it's historic. Now onwards, G20 has de facto become G21.